You should have killed me while you could, James. Command and compassion is a fool's mixture.
Hello space friends, welcome back to Star Trek Sodium. We have Star Trek the Original Series episode, Where No Man Has Gone Before, which, depending which way you look at it, is either the fourth episode or the third episode or the second pilot. Now on to the facts for Where No Man Has Gone Before, facts that you didn't even know. Early on in the production of Star Trek, the set designers were still getting things right, testing the waters for how the working of the Starship Enterprise actually worked. One futuristic feature that the Enterprise had was the automatic doors, which open not with a doorknob or with a voice command, but opening when somebody approaches and closing when the opening has completed. Initially, the doors were calibrated so that they would spring open incredibly fast and then slam closed quickly, but this would unfortunately lead to disaster. Those of you with eagle eyes would have noticed that the character of Lieutenant Massaur appears in this episode, but then never again. That's because the Enterprise door possibly slammed shut on his arm, cleanly chopping off his hand like never before. The awful man then sprayed his blood all over the floor and wall, sabotaging the set for the next episode. Thankfully, the filming had finished for this episode, and so the cleaners got to work, scrubbing the walls and washing away the glutinous blood with haste. As the production of Where No Man Has Gone Before came to an end, the actors got together and decided to create a time capsule to help give the next generation an insight as to what went on with Star Trek in 1966. After finding a sturdy and waterproof box, the Spock actor decided to put in a copy of the script for the episode they'd been filming. William Shatner didn't really have anything of any interest to put in the container, but kindly put in his sandwich to show a future generation the kind of thing that was eaten on set in 1966. Producer Eileen Foster wanted to tell the story of the day's accident, and so put in the severed hand of the actor of Lieutenant Massaur. The box now contained information about the episode, an interesting insight into the food eaten in the 1960s, the scripts used in the 1960s, and a grisly reminder of the kind of accident that can happen on set. One of the producers got a shovel and buried the crucid container right there in the studio, where hopefully it would be discovered in about 24 or 25 years.
The image of what he'd seen was still in his mind.
Well, it didn't make any sense that he'd know.
Tragedy struck during the soapy production of Where No Man Has Gone Before, when the woke mob suggested to Gene Roddenberry that the episode title was extremely sexist. In retribution, Gene promised that he would readdress the situation in about 21 years. Thankfully, he was a man of his word, and in 1987, the popular Star Trek episode Where No One Has Gone Before made its debut on electronic televisions. Where No Man Has Gone Before both introduces and eliminates the character of Gary Mitchell, who is both the friend and hensing enemy of Captain Kirk. The original idea for Gary Mitchell was to be a recurring character who would go a bit mad when he gets magical powers, but then plans would change when disaster struck. You may have noticed that Gary Mitchell has an interesting and creepy looking contact lens right stuck in his eyes, which were a physical manifestation of his powers. The trouble was that the lenses were made from tiny seashells, which had been superheated to make them partly transparent, but the side effect of this is that the lenses were coated in quicklime, otherwise known as calcium oxide, which is a strong, caustic alkaline. Over the day of filming with the contact lenses, they accidentally burned into the actor's eyes, which made him wince a lot, causing the calcium oxide-laden tears to drip down his face, burning and irritating his once pretty face. There came a point when the Gary Mitchell actor allegedly said to Gene Roddenberry he couldn't proceed any more future episodes of Star Trek, and so he was hastily killed off. The debuting Captain Kirk would go on to be one of the most beloved characters in all of science fiction, with his cheeky smile, an eye for the ladies, and his charming negotiation skills, which of course would get the Enterprise crew out of all manner of trouble. What's surprising, though, is that his original name in the script wasn't actually James Kirk at all. In a recently discovered, but since lost again script, it possibly came to light that the original name for our beloved captain was Fusel Merms. The trouble came when Gene Roddenberry thought that the name Merms and Spock sounded silly together, but Kirk and Spock sounded just great, and so we can thank the name of Captain Kirk existing to the synergy of it sounding great next to Spock's name. Good on you, Gene Roddenberry. Speaking of Spock, the original script for Where No Man Has Gone Before features Spock's full name, which was actually never spoken in an episode or written anywhere ever again. Jason Spock was his full name, as it was reflected here by his half-human heritage, with Jason being his mother's middle name in her honour. The name wasn't used on screen as Gene Roddenberry thought Spock sounds more interesting, and just referring to him as Spock sounds more like a space name, and so the Jason part of his name was forgotten forever. Over the sands of time, it's become so forgotten that virtually no one on Earth can confirm that it ever existed. The genesis of the name of the episode came from a surprising set of events that Gene Roddenberry had experienced the year before. Reportedly, Gene had been driving through West Virginia when he was in a tired stupor, and he accidentally drove down a dirt track into the woods instead of turning towards the highway. After driving between trees for hours on end and arriving in a quiet cliffside forest, he realized that he might have ended up where no man has gone before. Whereas this might have been true for the location, that's where the coincidences end with this episode. The woods held no strange humans with creepy eyes and magical powers, as far as he could tell. Where No Man Has Gone Before features the debuts of popular Star Trek characters of Sulu, Captain Kirk, and Scotty, all of whom feature in this episode, along with Star Trek veteran Commander Spock. If we're to believe the dogshit unofficial prequel series Strange New Worlds, though, then they had worked together before, but this glaring lack of research and awful writing leads me to believe that this is nonsense and it should never be considered Star Trek, let alone credible entertainment. Thanks ever so much for checking out my super interesting facts all about the Season 1 Star Trek episode Where No Man Has Gone Before, which I think overall is a really great episode and it's fairly creepy. Comment of the week goes to Steve McSticky, who says, "I hate that weird looking Charlie actor. He gives me the creeps." Yeah, I reckon you're right. He is a little bit creepy, although he is a terrific actor. And rumour has it that he went on to play other creepy people like Michael Jackson and possibly Gary Glitter in future projects. Please comment underneath if you have any thoughts on this, or any comments, or any facts that I didn't realise that I knew, even though I don't think that that's possible. Like it and subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and all that sort of stuff. You know, just the traditional stuff that you'd hear people harping on about when they do their YouTube videos. I'll see you next time, and please come back for some terrific facts. All the best. Bye!